what is the deal with Britain in terms of this whole scenario that has played out since, well, they've been left out in the cold? Are they the ones preventing from this treaty, which we'll get into later, from happening?
Well, Britain is in a really precarious position. They have a debt-to-GDP ratio of over 1,000%. 400% of that is just in their banking sector alone. So now they've completely isolated themselves from the rest of Europe. So David Cameron wants to have the City of London be the global headquarters for fraud. Remember, AIG, MF Global, Lehman Brothers, and Bernie Madoff all had their operations in London. He wants the world to let London be the center for global fraud, and at the same time, he wants the world to buy British bonds and British bank debt. No, that's not going to work. So David Cameron is committing financial suicide, and adios, David Cameron.
Max Keiser, Germany is on the prowl. I mean, for this supposed Merkel-Sarkozy rescue plan to work, wouldn't it require that Germany would need to govern European states kind of like colonies? Some comparisons have been made in that regards, with their own financial proconsuls, if you want, in every treasury, her own monitoring officers in every government department. I mean, is that going to work?
Sounds like a plan. You know, this whole crisis is working great for Germany. First, under the Euro project, they got to reunify, which is something that Thatcher and Mitterrand of France warned against. But here we have a reunified Germany, and phase two will be the rise of Frankfurt to take over as the dominant banking center in Europe and push London out. So London as a banking center of Europe is gone. Frankfurt is on the ascent. So the 1-2 punch of Germany in all this is working out very well in their favor, and we're looking at a new era with a new German superpower.
Okay, Max Keiser, going back to the question I asked Rodney Shakespeare, again, it's very interesting that you have this a general coming out of the United States making the claim, a warning, extraordinarily grave concern, he said, over the EU crisis, that the euro crisis could lead to civil unrest. This, on the austerity, is what I would think, and the breakup of the European Union. I mean, a top U.S. military officer with this warning, what do you make of that?
Well, I had a chance to speak with Jim Rickards last year, just a couple of months ago, actually, about a war games exercise that he participated in not long ago at the Pentagon, where the Pentagon is now actively engaging in war games of financial war and currency wars. So the Pentagon and the U.S. military is very aware that credit default swaps and other derivatives are now being used as weapons to destabilize countries. Now, in terms of euro and the eurozone, of course, they're going to be the big winner in the currency war because they've got 10,000 tons of gold. And Britain has 300 tons, and America has maybe 8,000 tons. So this is the way the currency wars are going to go forward. And, of course, a U.S. general is now talking about it because this is the new front in the global war. It's a currency war.
And who would he consult with to come up with a statement like that? Timothy Geithner or the U.S. president? I mean, again, it's just extraordinary that he would say this.
He's, I'm sure, aware of these war games exercises that are taking place right now in the Pentagon. Okay. So this is now on the daily intelligence briefing of the U.S. military establishment, that we've now entered an era of financial war and currency wars. And America, of course, is stupidly spending billions fighting the old, rear guard action of missiles and tanks and CIA interruptions and bombing countries and sending drones. That's yesterday's war. There's a currency war is the new 21st century war, and the U.S. is woefully inadequate. So is the UK. Germany's got one of the biggest gold positions in the world, and the Eurozone has the biggest gold position in the world. So they're going to look very good in this situation.
Max Keiser, the new treaty, if it's going to work, tell us about the money trail. Where's the money going to come from? I mean, if we're talking about growth, we're not seeing sustainable growth in these economies. It's pretty stagnant. I mean, looking at it, we go back to 2007 and 8, the banks got bailed out by the billions and billions. So we're also talking about Greece, Spain, maybe Italy, very likely by some accounts. So where's the money going to come from?
Well, there is no money. The IMF is bankrupt. The World Bank is bankrupt. All the major banks in the world are bankrupt. So to follow up on Rodney Shakespeare's comments, the system is collapsing. The various heads of states are pretending that it's not collapsing, but it is collapsing. There is no money to loan into this system. But to looking past that, you have to look at what will come as a result of this collapse, and that is a return to a gold standard. That's the end game in all of this. There may be a brief period where there's an attempt to introduce the IMF's special drawing right as a world reserve currency to take the place of the dollar as a way to extend this game maybe a couple of years longer. But putting that aside, the end result will be a return to the gold standard. That's why, for the first time in 30 years, central banks are buying gold. China's buying gold. Russia's buying gold. Iran's buying gold. They see the writing on the wall. We're going back to gold. And the central banks that were buying gold are in good position after this thing collapses. So I agree with Rodney. It's collapsing. What's going to come after it is a gold standard.
Max Keiser, Wednesday last week, European Commissioner for Economic and Monetary Affairs, Olli Rehn, he said the EU was entering a crucial 10-day period to save the euro. 9 days have passed. What do you think? What did he mean?
Well, it's always a 9-day period or a 10-day period. This is, as Naomi Klein writes about, disaster capitalism. The bankers are constantly creating problems. They're like arsonists. They set a house on fire, then they come around to try to put out the fire and pick up a reward. So you can't believe a word coming out of their mouth. Now, in the case of the UK, up to 40% of the GDP in the UK is generated by the City of London, and virtually 100% of that activity is fraudulent. Again, repeat, they are responsible for AIG, Bernie Madoff, MF Global, and Lehman Brothers, all courtesy of the City of London. Now, if you could take that out of the UK economy, there's nothing left but a pot of Marmite and some really bad reality TV shows. So the whole center of financial gravity is going to move to Frankfurt. And we're going to have actually some credible banking facilities up in continental Europe. And the UK can go, drop dead as far as Europe is concerned.
And quickly, if you can, are we going to see a fallout globally because of what has occurred if it doesn't work with this new treaty?
Of course we're going to see a global fallout. There's a global banking collapse, which is going to result in a return to a gold standard. But all the new credit facilities and banking facilities will be, in large part, administered out of Frankfurt and Berlin. And the UK has shot itself in the foot. David Cameron, if he's re-elected, the people of the UK deserve what they get.